Hello.
Good morning. This is
Hello?
Mikkel Thommessen from Sail Magazine in Norway.
Ciao, Mika.
Hello.
Ciao, Mika. Good
morning. Good morning to you. I'm talking to Riccardo Simoneschi, who is well known among Norwegian Melgis 24 sailors. Do you want to say hello to? Do you want to say hello to them?
Oh yeah. Hello to the 24 M24 sailing family. It's been great time and great friends, and it's been a really beautiful and enjoyable sailing. All the year I spent on the Melgis 24 and was successful and good fun, and the boat is fantastic. Still is fantastic. I think it's one of the best one design on Earth, I have to say.
Right. Well, the class is still going strong here, and many of the old people whom you used to sail against are still active. So maybe you'll meet them again on the race course someday. Riccardo, the reason why I'm calling you and have asked you to do this interview is that you have just recently declared your candidacy to become a vice president of World Sailing. And as you all know, World Sailing is in a troubled water these days, and we don't know what's going to happen with the financial situation, given the coronavirus, the postponement of the Olympics, and the general poor condition that World Sailing was in before that. But I want to hear from you, being a vice president or being a vice president candidate and being a very experienced person in international sailing. You have served on various committees in World Sailing, ISA, for a great number of years. You have been involved in the Star class. I think you were quite involved in getting the Star class back into the Olympics. You are sailing TP52. You have a company that does sports management and various other things. So I think you probably have a lot of things to bring to the table for World Sailing in the future. Tell me a bit about what your plans and ambitions are.
Well, yes, thank you. First of all, it's not a matter of ambitions, or personal ambition, I would say. I think that it's time for those of us that have enjoyed sailing, as I did, in every aspect, I have to say. As well as you mentioned, I've been lucky to build a good business and sport career and sport management, building, I think, solid experience. I've been the advisor for what we call now the series. I started with my Star a long time ago, building what was the ultra classic circuit. Then after that, I started managing all the interest in the Mediterranean area, not only about sailing, building all the models that have been used to promote sailing and promote to the sponsorship of Audi, building all the major events that have been run in the Med. But I think that because of this experience, it's time for the people that has made similar experience to step forward and to offer their services to the sport, because we have to protect the sport we all love. We have to support it. Personally, I'm not a campaigner, and everybody knows that I'm not a truly political guy, even if after the effort I made before to become president of the Star Club to bring it back into the games, I've been dropped into the political sailing world. But anyhow, I'm not a truly political guy, and I really feel a bit uncomfortable in making a campaign. But I would say that the discomfort that I feel in my heart in doing this is less than the love I have for my sport. And so I've decided to come into this uncomfortable zone for me, because I think it's time that I put my experience to the world of sailing. And for this reason, I have a lot of ideas, obviously, because it's 25 years that I'm within the ISAF and war sailing family. I've seen all the process. I basically listened to all the story. I've seen all the events and happenings along these years. And I think that we definitely have lost some focus on what we should do as an international federation. And if I have to say, the first goal for me is to refocus the federation on the fact that there is a big competition around the world. Every different sport is trying to improve its presence and to be attractive for the young generation. And so we should do with the International Sailing Federation, because we really need to sorry, there was several calls going into the phone. We really need to improve our presence and to be attractive. We have to make sailing more fun from the very beginning. We have to refocus our way of thinking in a way that the young kids will have fun in going sailing, and most of all will have a clear path in front of them if they will decide to become more and more competitive, even becoming a pro later on. So that's very important, because at the time being, if you don't offer the people a clear vision of what to do, which is the way from a young kid at the yacht club to become a champion in the environment we are all living in right now, we will not win the battle to be attractive. So that's very much in the beginning of my, very much the beginning of my thought about war sailing for the future. Then you mentioned about the financial situation. It's just one of the problems. It probably at the moment is the main problem. And for this reason, I think that war sailing 2.0, that will be the new war sailing anyhow after the next election, will need skilled people in the board. We'll need a group of, I would say, friends that has the skill, a trackable record of delivery in the world of sport, because it will be difficult. It will be difficult for all the federations. The COVID-19 has done a part of it with the postponement of the Olympics, but for war sailing was not that the matter, because war sailing was already in shallow financial water before of the COVID. So we will have to face a future that will be different. There will not be big money. There will probably be contingent in traveling, a complete new era for a while. Not talking about the fact that in the better scenario we will have 2 Olympic Games in 3 years. So 2 quads, one overlapping the other one, and that's also a matter that really changed the game for what will be the Olympic classes set up in the next year. So these are some of the things we have to face immediately, and it is important that we build an environment of trust and transparency, because it will not be possible to make good decisions for the sport if the environment is different from trust and transparency.
Riccardo, you are talking about the Olympics, and is that the utmost importance for world sailing to concentrate on the Olympics, to choose Olympic classes, and should they be more concerned with recruitment, with other types of sailing, recreational sailing, ocean racing, Grand Prix racing as well?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. Sorry. That's a very good question, because that's another point that it's important for the future. War sailing, or ISAF before, has always been focusing on the Olympic sailing for 2 simple reasons: because the federation are focusing on that, and because the Olympics are our main, I would say, customer, the from the Olympic. Every international, source of income, because it's from the Olympic Games is where you get the most money in every international federation. So that said that it makes understandable the interest. I think that we completely lost the focus, and also we have lost the possibility to deal with other possible sources of income for the federation, because there are plenty of sailing around the world, plenty of sailing around the world that basically is not very much represented within world sailing. This includes from the optimist, I would say, from the kids starting their career to the biggest events like the America's Cup, the Ocean Race, and many other huge events that are sailed professionally around the world, and that they sometimes are, or not sometimes, I would say quite often, are much more recognized by the international media and the normal public than the Olympic Games. And I think we are a federation that is that has to cover globally the sport of sailing, including every kind of event, and obviously taking in high respect the Olympic Games because of the reason I said before. But this is one other point. There are many, but this is one of the other points we have to refocus. We have to bring back in our family all the beautiful sailing and the most important and visible sailing that is around the world, and at different levels. The offshore, as you said, the Grand Prix, the many activities, the match racing, many activities in the diversity of our beautiful sport that has to be more focused. And you can see that when you look at the World Sailing Award, the Sailor of the Year Award. If you look back, I would say that the 95% is dedicated to the Olympics. So it speaks by itself. The rest of our sport is not as much considered as it should.
Is the sport too much fragmented? Are there too many new classes, too many directions? This is a very old story. If I have to analyze our sport, I would say that yes, the answer is yes. But because we are focusing on classes, if you think about our sport just as a brainstorming, you may say that our sport is represented by inshore race, offshore race, match racing, if you want to make a declination of that, and boards. This is our sport as a whole. Then we have different tens of classes that apply to these four disciplines. Let's say offshore. You can go offshore with a huge maxi boat or with a mini 6.5. But still, the race is basically the same. It's racing offshore, being offshore for several days. Then you have inshore, and inshore you have a huge variety of different kind of boats that basically are doing the same thing. They are racing in close water around the marks, several regatta per day, but with different kind of classes of different kind of boats, but the race is mainly the same. Then you have the board, kite or surf, because they are one of the kind. And if you want, you can take out from the inshore, you can take out the match racing because it's a different kind of discipline. These four are sailing. Then you have the declination. The declination are so many as much the classes are, the kind of boats are. And I think it's only positive, because to have a diversity is always a good thing. But we have to rationalize as much as we can to present our sport to the broad public in a way that becomes more understandable. You are a keelboat sailor, and so you have experience from the Star and the Melgis. What do you think about keelboats being completely out of the Olympics now, with the possible exception of the offshore mixed race in Paris?
Well, actually, it's partially true. I'm a keelboat. I have to say I'm mainly a keelboat, but I've sailed Flying Dutchman, I've sailed high-speed catamarans, spoiling catamarans. So I think I've sailed more or less everything in my career. I would like to divide your question in two. That is, what about keelboat in the Olympics, and what about the double mix offshore? I think that keelboats in the Olympics, one way or the other, should be represented for a very simple reason, that if you go around the world, whatever you may watch into an harbor is a keelboat. So there is a vast majority of the sailors that are sailing keelboat for obvious reasons. And if we want to come back to the first point of this interview, saying connecting the base to the Olympics, we are missing a huge opportunity there, because we are completely disconnecting from the vast majority of sailing stakeholders that are sailing keelboat. So there should be a way, I don't know which one at the moment, but there should be a way to reconnect with this vast majority. Second, the answer could be the double offshore mixed keelboat. Well, yes, maybe. I think that we came to this decision within World Sailing with a very weird process. I think that because most of the federation are really focused on the Olympics, namely on the dinghies, the whole process of the selection of this discipline has been not very effective, and we didn't took in charge a lot of different problems that should have been better examined before to make that decision. First of all, the availability of a competitive fleet, or more than one competitive fleet, to go ahead with this event. That still is not really existing. There is only one at the moment, a small fleet of boats that can really match with the intent of this double mix offshore discipline. Beside of that, I tested. I was one of the very first one to test the event last October. We organized this European from Venice to Trieste and then the Barcolana. And I have to say that to the normal public, when I say normal public, I'm talking about non-sailors. That one part of the public we have to think for. Was very attractive. Surprisingly, I think that there was a kind of everything. It was the mix of a man and a lady on board. So a relationship all of us experience in their life. It was because it was possible to get some footage from the guys sailing in the night. So it became very mediatic, very understandable, and very attractive for the people. So there is a lot of positive in that event, but it should be under the control of the federation, because it will be expensive. So there should be definitely a way to keep cost under control in an effective way, and also it will be not easy to have good fleet at the level of an Olympic discipline, so that are standardized in terms of hull, equipment, and mainly the sails around the globe to have proper selection and proper events. So there are a lot of downfalls still to be solved, but I think that in terms of media, it may work quite well and serve the idea of promoting the sport.
You said that the majority of boats all over the world, in the harbors and everywhere, are keelboats, which is of course true. They're not always racing, but still keelboat is a very important part of sailing. The star is now out of the Olympics, yet it seems that the star class is enjoying very good success at the moment, with the Star Sailing League and Bacardi Cup getting more people than ever. Wasn't that a mistake to take, even though it's old, it is still a very modern keelboat out of the Olympics?
I have to say two things on that. One thing is that when I'm saying that the keelboat, as you well pointed out, not very spread around the world, even if not used for racing. But that is the same effect for the fan of the Formula One. No? Everybody of us is driving a car, is not racing on a circuit. But that's good enough to, when you watch the Formula One Grand Prix as a TV, to have a straight connection with the feeling the pilot may have racing the car on the Formula One Grand Prix, because you know about driving a car. You are making that experience every day. So then your mind can, in some way, try to understand and get astonished of the speed and the risk and blah, 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 because you have a connection. So this is a good point in between the connection of the keelboat with keelboat racing at the high level. Even people that is not racing but is sailing in the summer with keelboat may have a good connection. What does it mean to make a maneuver, and what could be the feeling on the boat. Then about the Star class, I'm a life member of the Star class. I've been the president. I brought it back into the Olympic. I defended from the stalling attack. So I think part of my life has been dedicated to that. But I think first that, like many other classes, as soon as you drop out from the Olympics, you have a period of time in which the people feel confused. But after that, most of the fun of the classes remains into the class, and it even improved because costs diminish, less competition, and so everything became easier and more affordable, and that normally increased the number. Every time you push to the limit and to the top, you limit the number, but that is physiological, I think. Yes, it's living a period of very high success, but that's introduced another argument. So we have to look forward events that are self-sustaining. And for me, self-sustaining it doesn't mean to have a mentor that has decided to invest a lot of money to make something work. It should work by itself. There should be a good economic circle. That means that you have events that are able to attract attention, that are able to attract financial support from the market, so that they became self-sustainable. If you have a team, let's say a racing boat or a team that base its finance only on the passion of a super rich guy that buy the boats, pay the teams, and that team may be in a very good position to perform well, but it's not living of its own. It's living on the interest of just one person, so it's at a big risk, because when that people decided to stop for whatever reason, the team will stop. It doesn't build any kind of self-sustaining attitude. Then the Star is still a very good boat, but it's an old boat. I have to say that what bothered me when we drop out the class from the Olympics is that we are not dropping the boat, but we are dropping the culture and the spirit of the class that has been built for years and years and years. And we are obliged to rebuild our heritage one more time within a new class. What I want to say with this, I want to say that when the class or the FIN or very old classes, has gone out of the Olympic because we are focused not on the discipline, but we are focused on the boat. We have took out the boat from the Olympics, and with that boat, we also took out the heritage of 100 years, the story of sailing within the Olympic. And we have to rebuild it on the new classes. And I think this is wrong. Back to the Form 1, every year, when you look at the start of the season, they go back to Manuel Fangio, they go back to their old class, because that's the heritage in which the new pilots want to fill in. So we should find a way not to be so focused on the class, not so focused on the boat, but focus on the class culture. And I have to say about the Star, well, I've been in many different classes, but the culture of the Star class, the fairness, the level of the champions of that class has been one of the very unique example of a very high level history of sailing. So it's been a pity to lose that, not the boat. The boat is a piece of fiberglass. We may like it or not. We may think it's fine. It was definitely nice to sail. It is still nice to sail. But the boat became older. But the pity is to cancel the boat and cancel the culture.
Okay.
Of the class.
I think that is very interesting what you are saying, particularly the fact that the boats that are being dropped from the Olympics actually have a very strong growth in the years after. The Dragon is a very good example of that. The Fin, although they are still in the Olympics, but it's growing tremendously as a class and will grow and be popular even out of the Olympics, I'm absolutely certain of. But talking about rich people's sport and the traditional boats, let's talk about the America's Cup for a while, because Italy is very strong in the America's Cup. And we just now see that Prada is the main sponsor of Luna Rossa, with Bertelli, who is the son-in-law in that family, is facing not necessarily financial problems, but they are of course being affected by the current situation with the coronavirus, and that it is seen now as perhaps not the best thing for a company under these circumstances to spend an enormous amount of money in the America's Cup. What do you say about that?
But it's exactly what I was mentioning before. I mean, if you look at the story of the America's Cup, the event has never been, in my opinion, self-sustaining. It's always been based on the interest and personal passion of a certain number of very rich people, but there is no ratio in the investment versus the visibility that you can get from the America's Cup, to be honest. So with Prada, it's the same. Patrizio Bertelli is a member of my yacht club. He is really fond of sailing. Maybe not everybody knows this story, but it was really starting from the very base of our sport a long time ago, when it was not yet Mr. Prada. He was already a sailor. So his passion for sailing is completely honest. And he's investing his own money into the game, and sometimes it's been very good to recover it, because it's such a smart businessman that has been able to recover it. But still, the risk at the beginning of the investment is such a high level that it is very difficult to find a company that will decide to do it 100% as Prada is doing. And I think that if you look at the teams of the America's Cup, yes, they have some good sponsorship, but behind every team there is a group of, I would say, private supporter, at least. Team New Zealand is another example. That offer a guarantee that's basically saying, well, who will do it, whatever will be the level of sponsorship you can get. So when I talk about events that are self-sustaining, I'm talking about events that are able to create such awareness and visibility and value that you can find on the market companies that decide that they fit with their strategies and they put money into them. And sailing, I have to say, is not very good in this at the moment because of the cost of our events and the visibility we can achieve through them. It's always a very, very difficult balance. There are some of them that are working, but in general terms, it's one of the points that we have to think about. Because if we want to increase the participation also, we have to help at local level. We have to restart the economy at local level. I mean, I have nothing against the so-called monopoly boats because the purpose of that was in the beginning very honest and very intelligent. The time in which there were boats that were very expensive, to have a boat like a small dinghy with a reasonable cost that could have been spread around the world was a great idea. Unfortunately, I think we have lost the control along the way, and now the result is that we have killed completely the low-level economy. What I'm saying with that is, when I was young, I was sailing flying junior, very, very young, 10 years old, and there was the small boat here building the boats in my area, and there were 2 or 3 small sail makers building sails in that area, and they were living out of that. But when I was becoming a little better, they gave me a jeep. I remember I got this first. It was a 3 jeep to test, and all that kind of local level sport and small economy was really giving and offering the young guys the possibility to have access to an higher level. Today, we have created a big barrier. So, first of all, because if you want to sail very acrobatic boats that are very good looking and very good fun, and I have nothing against that, I want to be clear, just trying to analyze, you have to dedicate a lot of time. So if you want to be competitive, you have to dedicate it 250 at least days per year to sail that kind of boat, because the acrobatic part is such a big part of the performances that you can stay out of that. And you know that the people doesn't like to spend money and go sailing even in an Olympic campaign if they believe themselves completely out of the game. So you can easily watch it, which is a level of participation within a quad. You normally have the first year out of the Olympics, that level is good but not that high. Then you have the second and the third year that is very high. And then you have the year of the Olympics where the number decreased by a lot, because all the people that have no chance to go to the Olympics, basically, unless they are very young, they stop sailing, or they decrease the level of participation in their campaign. And we have to keep this in mind in the sport. Back to the Formula One, that gave me a good way to make an example, which is the problem of Liberty. The problem of Liberty, that is the organizer of the Formula One, is not to have Mercedes or Ferrari or Red Bull. They are super rich teams. They will always be in the Formula One because they have the opposite. They need a stage where where they can show up their power and their technologies and so on. But the problem for the organizers of the Formula One, how to keep the other teams within the game. If the top 3 are so much forward that for the others, it is even difficult to be at the half of that level. But for the whole game, the problem is that if you lose you lose the game, because the Formula One will not be the same with only 3 teams. It was a little bit like with the TP52. When we were sailing TP52, it was really difficult for us. We were self-sustaining teams, not that rich to sustain a team by myself. So I was looking around for good support. We found good support, enough support to participate, but our level of support was always less than the one of the team with super rich guys behind that at the minimum were always in front of us in terms of planification, because they were counting on a fixed amount of money. They were not spending time to find it, so they can make good plans 6-7 months before that we can finally start having reached enough level of sponsorship. So the problem in the sport is how we keep the second half of the fleet interested in being in the game. And this is where we can reconnect our sport to the Olympics. That is a must, because I can live with Olympic classes that are not able to reach a level of 8 or 10 boats almost in every country, because if you take out the laser and the fin with the masters and so on, it is very difficult in every part of the world to have a national championship of the Olympic classes with more than 8 or 10 boats. And this is nonsense.
Mm-hmm. I think this is very interesting what you are saying. We can carry on for a long time talking about it, but I think you have summed it up very nicely, and it's easy to understand what you think. Before we leave you, Riccardo, you said that you are not a political guy, but you are running now for vice president of the World Sailing, and there are 2 presidential candidates. Are you equally comfortable with them?
No, I think that I really support the idea to work together with Riccardo Simoneschi. Actually, we are working together. We know each other since a long time, as well as I know since a long time Kim Anderson. We have been seated in the same committees for 10 years, I think. I've nothing personal, obviously, but I think that the vision and the results that we have got so far from Kim, the results are below my expectation, and the vision is different from what from what could be my vision. Then I can work with everyone, obviously, because I'm a team guy. But if I have to think about the vision, that for me is the goal, because as I said before, it will be shallow water for a while. I think that in the past years there has been many mistakes, and the financial was really a big one, honestly. And because of that financial situation, that could really be hard. I think we will have to rethink completely the way in which we will work. And I think that there is more flexibility in the ideas and in the program of Riccardo. There is a more realistic approach to the world of sailing, as I think to it. I think Riccardo, despite his age, is very progressive, and that's good. We have to be back to the basic. That doesn't mean to be conservative. This is something that I want to speak clear and loud, because that it's not a matter to be conservative. Personally, I think to be a very progressive person, and also for the different kind of boat I've sailed, and I'm always looking forward. But to look forward, I know that you need to have a very solid base. You can incline yourself forward if your feet are not very well placed in the ground. So, and this is what we are missing now. And we can have that only if we rebuild, first of all, financial transparency, 150%. It should be total clear. The federation is not a company, it is a federation. And it's a very one of the kind of management, because it may work like a company, but on the other hand, it's a federation. So as a political aspect, that means respect for the minorities. That means understanding of the different spectrum of sailing worldwide. You can only focus on one piece, because that's not the case. It's not a company. But then you have to progress. But progress doesn't mean to cancel your past, because if you cancel your past, you completely lose your heritage. And when you lose your heritage, you lose your identity. That is exactly where we are at the moment. if you talk with people that is not a sailor about sailing, that's the exercise I would like to see the next board doing every single morning. I'm not interested in convincing the sailors. I want to present my sport to the rest of the world, trying to be attractive. And this is another point, because if we don't do like that, we will continue diminishing the number of practicants. And this is a counterstance for every sports federation. The main goal of every sports federation is to get more people involved, to get more countries involved, to understand how we can bring sailing in countries where sailing is missing, and how we can develop sailing in countries where sailing is present but maybe is not well known. And it's a completely different. It's a completely different job from running a company. It's one of a kind. I think that from what I heard so far, Gerardo is presenting the best proposal, but it's still a long way. Maybe there will be someone else coming up. The deadline for the candidature will be somewhere around the beginning of September. But I also think that it's not very important the position you may get in the board. The important thing, and I hope the people and the family of war sailing will understand, war sailing cannot have any more a split board. War sailing needs a board made of a group of people with different ideas that may work together. It is important there are different ideas. I can live with people with different ideas with me. I can work with people that didn't support me very well, and I think it's very healthy because avoid that you became I don't know the word in English, but I mean you refer to yourself only. So when you have someone thinking different from you, it's always good because it keeps you with the feet on the ground. But on the same time, should be a group that is knowing exactly where each other is standing without any suspicious, without any lack of transparency. We need to be that way if we want to rig up the boat that now is capsized, in my opinion.
Riccardo Simoneschi, it's been extremely nice to speak to you. Very interesting to hear your views. I hope that you will get a chance to work on these ideas and that you will have a good campaign. And I'm sure we will speak again.
Thank you, Mikkel. Thank you very much. And a big hello again to the Merges 24 people up there in Norway. There is a strong fleet. I always had fun sailing in your home water. It's been always great. I love your country.
Thank you so much, and have a good day. Stay safe.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.